Something brought you here, not an algorithm, not a coincidence, something beneath the level of conscious reasoning. You have felt it for a long time, a lingering, silent friction in your interactions with the world, a subtle but undeniable coldness that seems to follow you, wrapping itself around the edges of your social life and leaving you with a profound sense of isolation. You are not imagining this hostility. The strange looks, the sudden shifts in tone, the passive-aggressive remarks, and the inexplicable distancing of people you once considered close are not fragments of your paranoia. They are the visible ripples of a much deeper, hidden psychological architecture at play, a complex web of unconscious mechanisms that govern human behavior and dictate how the collective reacts to the individual. You have likely spent years turning the blame inward, analyzing your every word, scrutinizing your every action, and carrying the heavy burden of guilt, wondering what fundamental flaw within your character makes you so uniquely difficult to love, to accept, or to simply be around without friction. But the truth, as illuminated by the profound insights of Carl Jung, is far more complex and, ultimately, far more liberating than you could have ever anticipated. If you are beginning to understand that this feeling is not a delusion, but a profound realization of your reality, drop 11 in the comments right now to signify your awakening to this truth. The reality is that people do secretly hate you, but not for the reasons your anxious mind has fabricated in the dark hours of the night. They do not resent you because you are broken, inadequate, or inherently unlovable. They resent you because of your light, because of your relentless, perhaps even unconscious, pursuit of individuation. Individuation, the lifelong process of psychological integration, where you bring the unconscious elements of your mind into the light of consciousness, is a journey that fundamentally dismantles the comforting illusions that the majority of humanity relies upon to survive. As you do this, you become a walking mirror. When you walk into a room, you do not just bring your physical presence, you bring the terrifying weight of authenticity, which immediately exposes the fragility of the masks worn by everyone else. People are terrified of their own shadow, that dark, hidden repository of repressed desires, unacknowledged fears, and shameful impulses that they spend their entire lives trying to bury. When they encounter someone who is actively doing the shadow work, someone who is navigating the treacherous waters of their own psyche and integrating their darkness rather than running from it, it triggers a profound and violent psychological displacement within the observer. They look at you, and instead of seeing your humanity, they see everything they are desperately trying to avoid within themselves. This is the first mechanism of their secret hatred, triggering the shadow. Your very existence forces them to confront the fact that they are living a lie, that their carefully constructed persona is nothing but a fragile shell covering a vast, unexplored abyss of unresolved trauma and unachieved potential. They cannot handle this reflection. The cognitive dissonance is too painful, the grief of their own abandoned authenticity too overwhelming. So, rather than looking inward and doing the agonizing work of self-reflection, their ego employs a defense mechanism. It projects all of that internal hostility, resentment, and betrayal outward, and it lands squarely on you. Subscribe to Carl Jung philosophy to continue uncovering these hidden truths about the human mind and your place within it. You become the scapegoat for their internal suffering. The second reason they harbor this secret resentment is because you reflect their unachieved potential. Every time you take a step forward, every time you break a generational curse, every time you refuse to settle for the mediocre existence that society demands of its citizens, you inadvertently remind them of the dreams they gave up on, the risks they were too terrified to take, and the vibrant life they traded for the illusion of safety. Your growth is a glaring, unavoidable spotlight on their stagnation. When you speak of your goals, or even when you simply radiate the quiet confidence of someone who knows their path, It fractures their fragile sense of complacency. They have convinced themselves that settling is normal, that quiet desperation is the unavoidable baseline of human existence. Your life is a living, breathing refutation of that lie. To protect their ego from the crushing weight of regret, they must tear you down. They must convince themselves and everyone else that you are arrogant, foolish, or misguided. By invalidating your journey, they protect their own excuses. This is why you will often find that your biggest critics are those who have abandoned their own aspirations. If you recognize this pattern of projection in your own life, leave 444 below to claim your power over their negativity. The third mechanism at play is the elimination of dependency. As you individuate, you naturally begin to detach from the toxic, codependent dynamics that define most human relationships. You stop needing their approval to feel worthy. You stop seeking their validation to confirm your reality. This newfound psychological independence is absolutely terrifying to those who rely on your subjugation to feel powerful. Many people construct their entire identity around being the rescuer, the advisor, or the superior in a relationship. When you heal your wounds and no longer require their intervention, you strip them of their role. You expose the reality that their help was actually a subtle form of control. This loss of control breeds deep resentment. They feel betrayed by your autonomy, angry that they can no longer manipulate your emotions or dictate your choices. They will accuse you of changing, of becoming cold or distant, when in reality you have simply stopped playing the role of the willing victim in their psychological drama. You have stopped feeding their ego with your insecurity. This brings us to the fourth reason for their hidden hostility: your ability to see through manipulation. As your consciousness expands and you become more attuned to the deeper currents of human behavior, the superficial tactics that people use to control others become painfully obvious to you. You begin to recognize the subtle guilt trips, the passive-aggressive jabs, the gaslighting, and the emotional blackmail for what they truly are. Because you see these mechanisms so clearly, they no longer work on you. When a manipulator realizes that their tools are ineffective, that their carefully crafted persona cannot deceive you, they experience a profound sense of panic. They feel naked and exposed under your gaze. You do not even have to say anything. Your silent observation is enough to completely disarm them. This creates an intense, almost primal hostility. They hate you because you see the truth of who they are, behind the mask, and they know that you know. They cannot exist comfortably in the same space as someone who perceives their deception, so they must isolate you, turn others against you, or push you away entirely to protect the integrity of their false self. If you have experienced the isolating clarity of seeing through the masks of those around you, drop 528 to connect with the frequency of profound truth. The fifth dimension of this hidden hatred stems from your absolute refusal to play the expected roles that society and your family system have assigned to you. Every social group operates on an unspoken contract, a rigid set of rules that dictates who is allowed to succeed, who must fail, who is the scapegoat, and who is the golden child. When you embark on the path of individuation, you invariably tear up this contract. You step out of the box they built for you. You refuse to be the punching bag, the quiet observer, or the people pleaser any longer. This refusal restructures the entire dynamic of the group. It is like removing a load-bearing pillar from a fragile building. Everything begins to collapse. The people around you are forced to recalibrate their own identities because you are no longer playing your assigned part. This forced restructuring is incredibly uncomfortable for them. They do not want to change, and they are furious at you for forcing the issue. They will try to shame you back into your old role, using guilt and emotional manipulation to make you feel as though your growth is a betrayal of the tribe. They will frame your boundaries as selfishness and your self-respect as arrogance. But you must understand that their anger has nothing to do with your character and everything to do with their loss of comfort. This naturally leads into the sixth mechanism, the establishment of boundaries. The architecture of a healthy psyche requires strong, impenetrable boundaries, but to a world that thrives on enmeshment and emotional vampirism, your boundaries are perceived as an act of war. When you start saying no, when you start protecting your energy, your time, and your peace, you cut off the supply of the emotional vampires who have been feeding off your light for years. These individuals view your accessibility as a right, not a privilege. When you revoke that access, they experience withdrawal. Their secret hatred is the manifestation of this withdrawal. They resent you because you are no longer a bottomless well for their emotional dumping. You have locked the door to your soul, and they are standing outside, furious that they can no longer enter at will to steal your peace. This hostility is the ultimate proof that your boundaries are working, that you are successfully protecting your sacred inner space from those who would exploit it. If you are committed to maintaining the architecture of your self-respect, no matter the cost, drop 777 to solidify your energetic defenses. Finally, the seventh and perhaps most profound reason for their secret hatred is the undeniable reality that you are evolving while they are choosing to stagnate. The universe is governed by the law of motion. Everything is either growing or decaying. As you commit to your psychological and spiritual evolution, your vibrational frequency fundamentally shifts. You begin to resonate on a level that is entirely incompatible with the dense, heavy, unconscious energy of the masses. This creates a literal energetic friction when you are in their presence. They can feel that you are different, that you are slipping away from the lower frequencies of gossip, complaining, victimhood, and petty drama that they use to bond with one another. Your elevation highlights their descent. The loneliness you feel is not a punishment, it is the natural byproduct of outgrowing your environment. You are an eagle trying to live among pigeons, and the pigeons resent you for reminding them of the sky. The grief of this realization is profound. It is a deep, existential mourning for the connections you must leave behind, for the family members who will never truly know you, and for the friends who chose their comfort over your shared growth. But this grief is a necessary crucible. It is the fire that burns away the last remnants of your need for external validation. You must come to understand that their rejection of you is not a curse, but the highest form of cosmic protection. Their hatred is a filter, keeping those who are unaligned with your destiny out of your sacred space. It is the universe's way of clearing the path so that you can walk toward your true purpose, unburdened by the dead weight of their unconsciousness. When you finally grasp the totality of this truth, when you see the architecture of their projection, the illusion of their superiority, and the deep, pathetic vulnerability of their shadow, your fear of their judgment will evaporate. You will no longer seek to be loved by people who do not even know how to love themselves. You will recognize that their secret hatred is, in fact, a distorted form of reverence. They hate you because you are free, and their hatred is the agonizing proof of their own captivity. You are the architect of your own reality now, navigating the labyrinth of individuation with the fierce, unapologetic grace of a fully integrated being. The loneliness transforms from a source of pain into a fortress of solitude, a sanctuary where your true self can flourish without the suffocating demands of the unawakened collective. Embrace the friction. Welcome the misunderstanding. Let their secret hatred be the wind beneath your wings, propelling you further into the stratosphere of your own infinite potential. You are not here to be understood by the masses. You are here to understand yourself, to integrate your shadow, to wear your authenticity like a shield, and to walk the path of the hero, alone if necessary, but always in the blinding, beautiful light of absolute truth. If you have absorbed this transmission, if you feel the tectonic plates of your psyche shifting into alignment, and if you are finally ready to embrace the glorious burden of your own profound awakening, Write "I see it now" in the comments to declare your liberation to the universe.